Okay, so I think we are about ready to begin with a wonderful morning, and Michael with some thoughts. Yes.
Okay, I can't begin until we get the webinar going.
Aha.
But I'm on my way. See where to stand, behind the podium, out here, or like this, sort of half and half, fourth-way solution to this thing. I'll try to ignore my notes.
I think light is good, but maybe the webinar.
Is it, and Brett, do you have feed? Good. Hi, good morning. That's official now.
All right.
All right, and good morning, webinarians. The title of this morning's pep talk is Having Done All to Stand. So I guess it's very fitting. I have some quotations from Master DK on this, from the Technique of Integration number 4, which we have been emphasizing and which applies to all of us and which applies to humanity as a whole. So a few things to focus our thought, because this is a brief talk, and nothing is presto so that I know where I am. Okay, but I see where I am anyway. It's good enough. In every land, there is a growing recognition that when mankind reaches the psychological point where, having done all there is naught to do but stand, then some expression of a divine determination to intervene will appear. A divine determination, an expression of a divine determination to intervene will appear. There is a growing belief that human effort towards righteous action will be supplemented by the emergence of a divine force, person or event, which will bring the conflict to an end. And this is from Externalization of the Hierarchy 295. Then from the Light of the Soul, Book 2, he's talking about the methods which are given from the time the probationary path is entered and all the way until liberation, until the liberated man stands forth in the full light of day, a good Scorpio statement, the light of day. These methods and modes of disciplined living must be adhered to unswervingly. There's that nice, kind, second ray, Master DK, all sweetness and light, talking about unswerving adherence and whipping ourselves into shape. This involves patience and the capacity to go on after failure, to persevere when success seems far away. This was well known to the great initiate Paul, and was the cause of his injunction to the disciples he sought to help. Stand, therefore, and having done all, stand. In the following, let us see if we can relate the sequence of stages given to your own experience and to that of humanity. So DK tells us that there's a crisis involved here. He gives for every technique of integration a crisis, and we know that if we're not having a crisis, we should have one. He actually tells us that. If you're not having a crisis, get one, get one. Oh, just attend enough conferences, they'll come to you. So this fourth-ray crisis, evoked by a right understanding and a right use of the fourth-ray formula, produces the following sequential results. And see if you can relate to these results, if not because you have fourth ray in your chart, just because you're a human being, which is on the fourth ray, of course. The first stage, a sense of isolation. Putting this into more modern language, a complex is produced of the same nature as that which temporarily overwhelmed Elijah. He was overwhelmed with a sense of his clarity of vision in relation to the problem with which he was faced, of his unique response to it, and also with a sense of aloneness which devastated him. Remember, Vulcan, the first ray planet, is also related to the fourth ray, and is very much involved in the fourth initiation when that sense of devastating aloneness descends upon the disciple, and this is anticipated in the second initiation. The second phase, a sense of despairing futility. The forces arraigned against the disciple seem so great, and his equipment so inadequate and feeble. Anybody relate to that? Number 3, a determination to stand in the midst, and if not victorious, at least to refuse to admit defeat. Taking with determination the position which St. Paul expressed in the words, having done all, to stand. Now, point 4, a sudden recognition of the warrior within, who is invisible and omnipotent, but who can only now begin his real work when the personality is aligned. The crisis recognized, and the will to victory is present. And then DK says, we would do well to ponder on this. You know, I have a very strong sense that among disciples of our type, the will to victory should be strengthened in everyone, no matter what his ray or her ray may be. DK goes on, when therefore this state of mind is achieved, and the disciple and the inner master, the soldier and the warrior, are known to be at one, then there takes place what has been called in some of the ancient books the breaking forth of the light of victory. I mentioned this. A victory which does not inflict defeat upon those who are at war, but which results in the triple victory of the two sides and of the one who is at the center. Of course, the disciple is the soldier. The inner master is the warrior. All three, then, move towards perfection. This is typical of a fourth-ray consummation, and if this thought is applied with due reflection to the problem of the fourth kingdom in nature, the fourth grade of hierarchy, humanity itself, the beauty of the phrasing and the truth of the statement must inevitably appear. So this applies to all of us. Obviously, the warring forces within humanity, all of these warring forces are somehow all to win, at least from their soul perspective. And the victory, to win the victory, yes. And all are to move forward to perfection together. This doesn't mean that every type of personality form will be preserved, because there are, as DK tells us, evil personalities and evil forms. But the inner essence that motivates this outer fight has something of value to it. What then are the requirements upon us if we are to fulfill this process requiring steadfastness, which is the fourth ray integrative word of power, steadfastness? What are the requirements? Well, first of all, you know, I can't see that thing, so okay. All right, it's okay. It requires of us great patience, not normally a fourth-rate trait. From whence this source of patience? From whence? So extreme patience, in my view, and I'm not patient, but, you know, I'm working. Extreme patience arises from the realization of timelessness, the eternal now. I'm trying to go to the root of this. We, as a point of being consciousness, detached from the ordinary contents of consciousness in the three lower worlds, can begin to know this timelessness. Above all, it is time which is overcome on the fourth ray. It is living in the now, which is achieved. We are told the hour is now. So this is, you know, the mountain whereon form dies. This is the pivot point between the highest level of the higher mental plane, which is still in the dense physical body of the solar logos, and the points above in the cosmic ethers, which are the realm of life and the etheric body of the solar logos. This is where time, as we know time, is overcome. Actually, time is such a universal principle that it is never overcome. Even in the great breath, it is not overcome, but time as we know it is overcome. So think of the great patience required of the fourth ray group, the new group of world servers, working as they do with subjective methods and without the use of the force of criticism and attack. And that's a tough one, you know. The fourth ray doesn't get into that when it's operating according to its higher principles. Great patience is required. The world servers have been operative since the early 30s and probably impulse since 1925, and you would say, well, what's really happening? But the emergence will be slow. Think of the patience it takes to wait for this emergence. And this is also what the occult artist has to bring into his life. The power to meditate and wait for revelation, not just jumping at any little impulse, because we can all do that. But it's a divine type of alignment which we can achieve if we are patient enough. This cultivated patience of the fourth road type must be a patience which spans, I would say, not only decades, but centuries ahead. You know how it is with the masters. Their footsteps stride centuries. We have to learn to think in those terms. Entering the buddhi, there is an immersion in the factor of being, and one is not so swayed by the illusions of the world of becoming. So great patience is required. Then also, to live through this kind of crisis and to emerge as the inner warrior victorious, faith is required, and an end to worry, to which the fourth ray types are greatly prone. There's negative expectation of the fourth ray type. This has to be overcome and substituted the second ray positive expectation. As well, the requirements relate to a threefold sequence with which the new group of world servers work. And we are all familiar with the idea of crisis, tension, and emergence. Crisis, tension, and emergence. So we have to have the ability to hold the point of tension until emergence occurs. And this is precisely where people become weak, vacillating, they give way, they fall down, and they don't stand, they are not steadfast, and the emergence does not come. So all of us probably need to know how to sustain our point of tension. How do we actually hold a point of tension? It's a great subject, and we could debate on this a long time. But I would say non-deflective intensity of focus, allowing no deflecting thought, to stay on the beam utterly and allow no interference by an active will. And there's an element of sacrifice in this holding. Sanat Kumara could be doing a lot of other things. And so could a number of the masters. They say, don't you think there's something that maybe we're interested in out there? But we're standing on our post. And this is Saturn and this is sacrifice. And it's a deflection of all that would interfere with the present focus. Also, holding the point of tension. It's very simple. Not doing that which we know will weaken our point of tension. Not doing it. Assessing with every choice. That extra bite of food, that extra hour spent awake. Choice, all the time. And many little choices can deflect our point of tension, weaken us. As Master Morya has said, a scent stops on a burdened stomach. I remember that at lunch, as the plate gets higher and higher. Okay. So we have to hold time and timelessness together as one patiently awaits the emergence of the power to overcome the conflict. Midway between time and timelessness, on the mountain where unformed eyes the disciple stands. Like Janus, looking towards time, looking towards timelessness, understanding them both, understanding the reality of both, somehow able to maintain that point of tension. All three, the opponents and the one at the center, all three move towards perfection, and that connotes the Buddhic plane and the fourth level of the Atmic plane whereon the siddhi called perfection can be found. Having done all to stand. Yes, that's an injunction to our personal life. We can solve that. You can solve that for yourself. What does that mean for you? But for the group, having done all to stand is a very important injunction for our group life. So what does it mean? What does it mean to have done all? These are very daunting words. How many of us know that we have done all? Is there anybody who feels they've done all? You might as well die. Anyway. But, of course, there are those moments when it's really beyond your power to do anything more, and you at least hold your principles in the middle. When you read Master DK, he pretty well says, you haven't done all. You're working at many points of extension. You're maybe 60% effective. Your points of tension are scattered all over your personality. You're not concentrated. You haven't gotten as much out of yourself as I'd like to see you get. I always find that encouraging, don't you? So, you can find the answer for yourself. But let's, has the World Esoteric Group done all? Now, we're all members of what we would like to think is somehow a semi-coherent World Esoteric Group, and have we done all? So, here's how I conceive of having done all. And you would have to come up with your own conception. And this is the way I see it. Conveying the ageless wisdom however possible, because it can save the world. The thought form of the ageless wisdom, the knowledge of the divine plan, and some knowledge of the purpose can so change human consciousness that salvation can come with it. It's one of the great parts of the saving force. Having done all, when everyone who can be reached has been reached. And when is that? If those blue books weren't on the shelf in your life, maybe you ask yourself where you would be if you had not been reading the blue books for the last 10, 20, 30, 40 years. Someone made an effort to get them there. They reached you, and we have to reach others. Standing for the internal truth, despite the bemusement and the ridicule of others, and even the danger involved. To continue to stand for what we know is right, and what we know is true and beautiful, regardless of what other people say. They say, what do they say? Let them say. That's what DK said to the second-rate type when they're worried about what other people say. Harmonizing our differences, noting our disagreements, but not making dismissive judgments. We have to get along somehow. On the level of the critical mind, we're all like it's a snake pit. But on the other hand, we all love each other in a deep way, and we have to harmonize our differences somehow. Following the advice of the master as applied to the group. He's given a lot of great advice. Let's just live up to it. Have we done all? Putting first things first and second things second, going for the essential. And hardly anybody knows how to do that. We all have our pet things that we love to follow. But what are the real essentials? Boy, there's a lot of stuff that would drop away. And, you could find your own things. What does it mean, having done all, to stand? What does it mean to stand? First of all, to stand in spiritual being. And this is a condition of identification with the inmost essence of our nature, if we can find it, because we're always being. It is just a question of finding what we're always being, standing in spiritual being. Not leaving one's post. Sanat Kumara is the great example. The last weary pilgrim must find his way home. Sanat Kumara does not leave. Standing on the post. And that's a faithfulness to one's function. Remaining in alignment. That's what it means to stand. Standing with the open eye of inner vision, so you're not caught in duality. Standing with the heart which rests upon the center, so you can include the opposites. Being dependable in one's expression of the wisdom. And you would find your own meaning for what it means to stand. I just thought about these things, but everyone must for themselves. Now the emergence of the inner warrior. What causes this emergence of the inner warrior? Of course, it is, holding the alignment through all crisis, as we have just read. Faith is necessary. Confidence and assurance in the inner God and the reality of the inner God is necessary. Not vacillating from the sustainment of one's purpose is necessary. Holding in the harmonious field and fighting with impersonality. This is necessary. The inner warrior, invincible. I think there's a book in Agni Yoga written by Rorik called Invincible. And every once in a while, you can get a sense of the fact that the spirit that was never born and will never die is untouchable. It is untouched and unknown and untouched, unafraid, as we are told in the great Formula number 3 when it speaks of God as God is, the pure spirit. Some good from every enemy can be extracted. So in the midst of all of the mess, Master Morya always used to have his enemies list brought to him because he wanted to see if some worthy name had appeared on the list. We have read about that. And it's truth. We oftentimes learn a lot more from our enemies than we do from our nicely speaking friends. The friends that don't want to hurt us, they don't want to hurt our personalities, they don't tell us what they really think, and as a result, our soul remains stifled. All of this is required for the emergence of the inner warrior. Doesn't mean you have to have a fourth ray soul. In a certain sense, the solar angel is always the warrior and always somehow intently bringing through the human being in this great battle of the fourth human kingdom between the pairs of opposites. The solar angel has that incredible sustaining power. But if you happen to be a fourth ray soul and we happen to be a fourth ray kingdom, then the inner warrior really makes sense. Okay. So let's not compromise too quickly on this question of whether we have done all, whether we have stood, and whether the inner warrior has emerged. We're not even close. I speak for myself, but I imagine I'm speaking for many. This steadfastness that is required to have the true victory emerge, which is a great reconciliation for all opponents, is a tremendous act of concentration and courage. And we know that the fourth ray can display a lot of courage. DK expresses that to us, and he also expresses that we, human beings, as the fourth kingdom of nature, can and must display the great courage. So, where in your life, if any place, particularly, have you done all? And I would recommend that to you for an examination. DK has said that the true initiate knows he's never done enough, never ever, always dissatisfied, always dissatisfied. Even though dissatisfied, it is possible to stand in the midst when serenity demands that you know you can't do anything more in the immediate circumstance. Okay, but you know there's always more to do. So how in your life are you presently standing? Is the opened eye of inner vision, the single eye, at least in imagination, part of the process? And do I have a heart which rests upon the center? Is that part of the process? So this is what is required of the fourth kingdom of nature if it is to achieve the victory for humanity and not just a temporary victory for a small part of humanity. We want all of humanity to win, and this is what is required of us as we learn to stand and let the inner warrior emerge. And perhaps then we can change humanity from a warring kingdom to a kingdom of peace. Good morning.